Welcome back. My name is Geoff Abraham. I'm brand manager here at Pyrotecnico. We hope everybody is safe and well. Welcome back if you made it last time. If not, all of our videos are now available on both our YouTube and Facebook channels. Last time we introduced Pyrodigital's FCA system and concluded by discussing manual firing. Now today, before we go any further, I'd like to welcome back our friends and special guests, Marcel and Peter from Pyrodigital. Welcome, Marcel. Welcome, Peter. Thank you again for being here with us today.
Hi, I'm also happy to be here with you tonight. Thank you for the invitation. It's a big honor to be also here on the second episode.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be back on your webinar series. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you. For everyone watching live, please remember to stay involved with the conversation by asking questions, any questions you might have in the comment section below. Paul and Marcel will get to as many questions as possible. Today, we're going to be covering four primary topics. Those are the FCA rapid fire, the FMA firing module, timecode, and finally auto fire. We'll begin today's webinar with a recent show that utilized the FCA field controller, and that's before diving back into the actual FCA tutorial. This is a show that we did in Mobile, Alabama for Airbus back in 2019. And just for some fun facts or stats about the show utilized 82 modules, 1,135 single shot products, all of which fired at a 100% rate, which is almost unheard of. And the show covered a radius of over 2,500 feet and was completed in roughly 30 seconds. So now please sit back and enjoy this short video.
Hi, I'm Marcel from Pyrodigital, and this video will show you a comparison between the firing capabilities of the old FC3 field controller and the new FCA field controller. Also, you will see what the FCA field controller is capable of doing when its advanced features are activated. A quick overview of the setup behind me. We have 20 FMAs here of all different kinds. We have here FM3s, FM4s, FM45s, FM5s, FM7s in that setup, and of course also some of our FMAs. The script that we use to fire the setup is doing the following. It shoots all clamp zeros at one frame, then all clamp ones at the second frame, then all clamp zeros at the next frame, and so on. So each frame it shoots all clamp zeros, all clamp ones, all clamp twos, and so on. So first let's see how the FC3 is executing the script. As you might have recognized, the FC3 field controller missed out a lot of shots. It fired some of the first clamps and then the ones at the end, but all the clamps and most of the clamps in the middle were simply not fired. So now let's see how the FCA field controller is firing the setup. With the same script, of course, and all of the 20 modules connected to the same output. As you've seen, the FCA field controller now shot all programmed shots. So all clamps were fired and the whole script was executed. Okay, but now we want to make this firing a little bit more rapid. So let's activate the advanced features. Therefore, we split up the network into 5 lines of 4 modules each and connect them to the FCA field controller. Then we run the optimization with the advanced features enabled and fire again. Let's see the result. Alright, I think this result was quite obvious, but let's have a direct comparison running all three shootings in parallel in one picture.
To enhance the network power of the new FCA field controller in comparison to the old FC3 field controller, we added an extra 350 watts power booster. In the older version, the FC3 field controller was simply doubling the battery voltage to drive the network. The driving capabilities of the old FC3 field controller are therefore highly dependent on the ambient temperature and the charge state of the batteries. The new power booster of the FCA field controller drastically increases the output power and ensures maximum network power under all conditions. With the new booster technology, the FCA significantly increases fire performance and network range, also for older firing modules like the FM3 and the FM4s.
Excellent. Marcel, would you mind explaining to the viewers how this video relates to the Airbus clip that we showed earlier?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Airbus show was a really complex and quite challenging show to do. And it was possible because of all these features that we just saw in the last videos. So the advanced mode feature, where you saw this rapid firing, this allows the field controller to use the 5 outputs individually and thereby increasing the speed by a factor of 5. So it's 5 times as fast as the old field controller was. And also it is capable of doing those many programmed shots simultaneously on the same time, programmed to the same time, where the old FC3 was running into limitations. It just still did what it should do, but it ran into limitations. That's why we saw it didn't fire all the shots that were programmed. And then the power technology, the booster technology that we saw in the last video is another piece that enables shows like we saw in this brilliant Airbus show. This booster technology really gives you much more power on your network and increases your range and just gives you more power also on the FM to fire your images.
Perfect. Thank you. Paul, do we have any questions before we jump into the next section?
I think we can jump right into the next session. We'll let the questions come in. Let's keep rolling.
Perfect. Thank you.
Our new FMA firing module has 4 main advantages, which are backwards compatibility with all older PD equipment, stronger firing due to an additional energy buffer, an integrated three-way splitter, and enhanced safety, especially during check status. Backwards compatibility is absolutely mandatory for all our developments. So of course you can use the new FMA firing module together with any older field controller or firing module. The FMA is still powered over the network cable. However, to increase firing performance, we added a local energy buffer. Thanks to this buffer, we always have enough energy locally to reliably fire the images, even during rapid firing or when using large networks. With the new integrated three-way splitter, you can now branch off 3 different lines. This is a big improvement compared to the older versions that only allowed daisy chaining. Looking at the enhanced safety, the intelligent network monitoring allows the FMA to interpret ongoing communication. For example, The FMA can recognize ongoing check status, also for other firing modules, and ensure safety. The electronics realize enhanced signal checking on the network lines for a highly reliable communication. Potential electrostatic charge gets bleed out by the internal circuitry, and the on and off switch allows you to fully disconnect the power from the firing circuitry. Our FMAs are built in a highly professional production line, and we only use high quality components. All electronics are molded in resin to protect it from sulfur and moisture. Of course, all our FMs have CE marking as well. The FMA comes with some new mounting options, including a notch for a safety cable. The included fire retardant Velcro cover protects the FMA from fallout.
You ready?
Noch du 5?
All right, very cool. Thank you again for those videos, Marcel. Before we do jump into any of the questions, if any of our viewers want to rewatch something or miss anything, can you tell us where they can find these videos?
Yeah, of course. You either find them on YouTube if you search there for Pyrodigital, or you find them on our homepage. And if you don't find the videos, or if you have other questions, just get in contact with us. The email is pd@pyrodigital.com. And if you are from the US or Canada, you can, of course, also contact our distributor, Roger George Special Effects in California. Email address would be sarah@rogergeorge.com. Yeah, it would be Sarah Morris. She's a great person to work with, so don't hesitate to get in contact.
Awesome, thank you for that. Paul, do we have any questions we can start with?
Yeah, we do have some questions, but I'd also like to add on there, you can always rewatch these webinars that we're putting out. They're going to be available on our Facebook channel and also our YouTube channel. So there's another resource that you can go to find this information if you missed anything. First question I have here is,
Paul?
what is the total number of e-matches per series would you recommend with the new system?
Yeah, with the new FMs, I would say you can roughly do about 18. In the videos that you just saw, we did 15, and I feel secure with that. And that actually I wanted to comment in the video, but I was anxious that maybe for some reason I took over the video because of my voice over talk. I was not sure about that at that moment, so. So what you just for the people who are not sure what they saw there, we had 15 igniters on each clamp 0 and clamp 1 on 3 different FMs. So in total there were 90 igniters. So each of the clamps were firing 15 igniters in series. And just as I said, 18 of them should be also okay. But of course, it also depends on how long are your igniter cables. If you do 60 foot igniter cables for each e-match, of course, that will also add on to the ohmic resistance. And yeah, but if you do so many in series, it's very important that you have high quality ones because you need them to be well balanced. Otherwise, some will break and some will not. Yeah. But the really amazing thing about the videos, which was just actually a test. We just videotaped this just more or less by accident. There was a customer of us coming in, Paul Nanos. He's a really great designer from Greece, and he wanted to do some ladder shooting. So he wants to ignite a lot of igniters at the very same time. That's why we did this test there with him, and it was to show how much stronger the FMAs are with this additional energy buffer that they have inside. The old FM generations only fired from using the power from the network, and the new FMAs fire with the power from the network plus an internal capacitor power.
Excellent. That kind of brings me to another question that I saw pass by, is talking about parallel versus series. Would you explain the benefits of the parallel versus series when using eMatch?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I would say generally, if it's possible, I would always recommend to do serial firing. But you need to have, as I just said before, kind of balanced out igniters. So you really need a good igniter eMatch quality. Think about, you would use two completely different igniters. Let's say you use one eMatch. You would use one eMatch that is extremely insensitive, so you need a lot of current to fire it, and then you need to take another one, a Chinese one, who would like fire if you just look at it. So you can think of it like kind of fuses in a car. You have one fuse that comes with 20 amps and another fuse that comes with 1 amp, and then you shoot them, and then the first fuse is, or in this case eMatch, is firing, and it takes away the current from the second one. The second one can't fire. So you need to do, if you have very good igniters that match each other, so like all of them from the same series and the same product, and you know they're high quality ones, you can put a lot of them in series. But this really does not work if you use Chinese cheap things that you buy from eBay or something like that. And well, a big advantage is here, if you're on series, that you always, if you check continuity, you get a continuity through all the eMatches. So you know for sure that all of them are contacted, and that's a big advantage that you have over connecting them in parallel. If you have them in parallel, then if only one of them has contact and the other ones, or one of the other ones, do not have, you cannot, a continuity check cannot realize that. I think in series you should be able to fire actually more. If you are parallel can have an important advantage if you have to fire products that do not have balanced igniters. Let's say you have one effect from China and another one from the US. You do not know which one has got which type of igniter in it, and you need to fire them on the same clamp. Then it's not a good idea to put them in series. This is a case where I say, there you use parallel, because then you can make sure both of them will come. But of course, on the disadvantage that the continuity check is not, that you just have drawbacks there.
Very good. That brings me to my final question for this section that just came in. Goes right in line with what we were just talking. If you had two different pieces of product, instead of series or parallel, can you put them onto two different pins, cues, clamps as you call them, and fire them at the same time on the same module?
Yeah, if you do this with two of them, that works with the new FMA. You will not have any problems with that. If you do this with all 16 clamp at the same time, it can get edgy depending on the cable lengths, but with two, no problem. Absolutely.
Excellent. Great information. So I think we should jump back in, and we'll keep the questions coming in, folks.
Perfect. Yeah, keep the questions coming. Thank you.
In auto-fire mode, the field controller runs fully automated scripts on an internal clock or synchronous to an external timecode. In order to access the auto-fire operating mode, the safety key must be armed to fire position. If it is safe to proceed per all warnings and safety procedures outlined in the Phase 3 System Network User's Guide, the user may then turn the key to fire position. It is required that the user practices using auto-fire operating mode in an inert test environment. Please read the section Practice and Inert Testing in the operating instructions of your FCA field controller for more information on inert testing and practice with test lamps. To enter the auto-fire mode, you have to press auto-fire and turn the key to the fire position. Please only do so if it is safe to do. Then the field controller calculates the fire table with the firing order and the timing. After the message disappeared, you can see your options on the display. Choose Internal to run your script on an internal clock. Or you can choose Internal plus FSK Master to also generate the PDFSK timecode signal to synchronize subsequent field controller. Or you can choose FSK Slave or SEMTI Slave to run your script on a synchronous external timecode. Show you how to use the internal option in auto-fire mode. First of all, you have to select your table by data table mode and select. In this case, I will select 0. Now you have to plug in your network cable. In auto-fire mode, you have to turn the key to the fire position if it is safe to do so. After that, I'll choose Internal. Now I can start firing by holding the Enable button and press Fire. I can pause my script by pressing Pause on the keyboard, and I can resume it by pressing either Fire on the keyboard or on the Deadman pickle again. I can also jump through the script lines by using the up and down keys. Now I can just start at another script line by pressing Fire again. And in this video, I will show you how to use the PDFSK option in auto-fire mode. Besides the internal option, the field controller can be synchronized to an external timecode. You can select the timecode format in the auto-fire menu. First of all, you will select your script table by going to Data Table and select. In this case, I will choose 0. After that, plug in your network cable. Now you have to go to auto-fire mode and turn the key to the fire position if it is safe to do so. Please choose FSK Slave now. Now hold the Enable button and press Fire. The field controller is now in wait code. Now you can start your timecode. If the received signal is valid, the PDFSK LED will turn blue and the synchronization status in the display will switch to In Sync.
Okay, great. I think we should jump right into some questions. Paul, do we have anything related to auto-fire that we can give to either Marcel or Peter?
Actually, the first questions coming in that I saw the requesting information on the bulbs that you use for doing your inert firing. Could you explain what bulbs you use?
I will use ones that you usually use in cars. I think they're 12, or I think there should be 12-volt ones. Yeah, even though the output power is 24 volts, you can use the 12-volt ones. They work pretty fine. If anybody needs some, they can just get in contact. I think we have them on relatively reasonable price, and our distributor in the US also have them. but I personally find them extremely handy. Absolutely, they are, especially if you want to practice and train. They are just amazing. You can just see what happens when you press, and I think that's absolutely important if you want to get familiar with the system.
And if you've scripted something and you just want to test it as a dry run, you can build a smaller section of it with lamps and just see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to, I know that's not really related to the technical stuff, but I got a lot of comments about my hair last time, like flickering around here. So I just wanted to, that's why I have the cap on this time, just that you know. I hope this is this is fine for you. Okay. I know Peter's laughing now because he's picking on me for my hair all the time because I can't get a haircut here in the Corona time in Germany.
It's hard for anybody to get a word in with Peter, as we know. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Marcel.
Yeah, I'm surprised he talked. But anyway,
go ahead, Paul.
Very good. The next question we have here is, do you recommend using the original splitters? I guess since the new modules have, you know, and it's an internal splitter.
Oh, well, yeah, as the new models do have an internal splitter, that's right. If you use the traditional splitters, they are absolutely fine as well. They are backwards compatible with the new system. A splitter at the end is just a passive device that is just making internal cabling. So you don't have to worry. The old splitters will work as well as new splitters and as well as the built-in splitters of the FMs.
Excellent. The next question we have is, what happens when you remove your thumb from the firing tickle in auto fire?
The controller stops executing fire commands to the network, so at the end it just stops firing.
Yeah, so you get in a, so as soon as someone releases it, you have a secure environment. So there are no firing commands leaving anymore to the network from the controller.
Excellent. See, we knew that Peter couldn't just answer. I'm sorry, Marcel had to get in there and make sure everybody heard his voice too. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to hit pause instead of just letting the dead man go?
Yeah, the difference is lifting your thumb up of the enable button is something like an immediate response to a not foreseen scenario. Pausing pushing the pause key is something you can do in a bland manner. It's a function, not a reaction to something. That's basically the difference. One just stops firing, but your script keeps running, and the pause key just stops your script from running internally, but the power and everything else stays on the bus.
Yeah, maybe as a real life example, I had a small fireworks show, a city festival show, and there was a drunken youngster who wanted to run to the fireworks, and he just, like, I don't know, he just wanted to show, you know, how brave he is, and he wanted to run right straight through the fireworks. So I released the thumb button, that man, an enable button, so the show immediately stopped running, it stopped shooting. But of course, also it was a scripted pyromusical show, a small one, and then I used also the pause button and paused the show until the security guys had catch this guy and brought him away, and then we just resumed the show. And by repressing the play button.
Perfect.
Very good.
All right. Thank you, Marcel.
Fire button. Sorry, fire button.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, Peter. Both. Let's jump into our next section, which will cover time code, and then we'll take some questions after that.
And in this video, I'm gonna show you how to use the empty slave in auto fire mode. First, choose your script table and the data table mode. In this example, I will choose 0. After that, you have to plug in your network cable. Now, go to auto fire mode and turn the key to the fire position if it is safe to do so. In the auto fire mode, choose SEMTI slave. You also have to choose the correct SEMTI format. These SEMTI formats are true in time, so there is no further clarification needed. But that's not true for the two remaining formats. These formats run slightly slower than their transmitted time. In order to compensate this delay, the field controller needs to know if it should compensate from absolute zero or relative to the time the timecode is started. Hold the Enable button and press Fire. Your field controller will now be in wait code. You can start your timecode now. If the incoming timecode is valid, the indicator will turn purple and the synchronization status shown in a display will switch to in sync. If the actual SEMTI format is not known, you can use the timecode mode to analyze the incoming SEMTI format. Just go to Timecode and SEMTI. The format will be displayed in the upper left-hand corner. Timecode operating mode. The FCA field controller can run on a highly precise internal clock or can be synchronized with an external linear timecode. These external timecodes can be transmitted via audio signals. It can be synchronized with two different timecode formats, the widely used SEMTI or the PDFSK format. SEMTI is the major standard in TV and show lighting productions. There are several different SEMTI formats that the field controller can handle all. PDFSK is a very robust timecode standard from Pyrodigital. It provides checksum security and is very narrow-banded. It can be easily transmitted via an audio cable or even via a walkie-talkie. The purpose of the timecode operating mode is to verify the integrity of a received timecode. You can use the timecode operating mode to check the incoming signal without the necessity of entering any fire mode. In this operating mode, the incoming frames are displayed directly and are not converted. This allows you to analyze the incoming timecode itself. Marcel will now explain the detailed information displayed.
Hi. In order to check the PDFSK timecode, we go to the timecode monitoring mode and then we choose PDFSK. Now we play some PDFSK timecode to the field controller. We already hear the start sound of the PDFSK and now the frames are coming in. On the right hand side we can see the incoming frames on the display. And on the left hand side we can see the PDFSK indicator that is blue and shows us that the PDFSK is in sync. On the left hand side we have the error frame counter that we can use to verify if the timecode is coming in stable. It will count up every time it sees an invalid timecode frame that is detected. So we will now generate some error frames by simulating a broken cable. So now let's also check some SEMTI timecode that comes into the field controller. Therefore, we select the SEMTI option, and now we place some SEMTI timecode to the field controller. On the right hand side, again, we see the incoming timestamps, and we now see the SEMTI indicator in purple lighting up, and we again have the error frames that help us to analyze if invalid frames are incoming. On the top left, we see the detected frame rate of the SEMTI timecode, and on the top right we see the offset. The offset is a separate option that allows you to shift the incoming time.
And in this video I will show you how to synchronize two different field controllers with the PDFSK master feature. First of all, you have to connect the two field controllers with each other. You put it in timecode out on the first field controller and in timecode in. Now that they're connected, we can go to the first field controller. First you have to choose your script table and the data table mode. This is already selected like I wanted to select, so I don't need to do anything here. After that, I have to put in the network cable. Now I can go to auto fire mode and turn the key to the fire position if it is safe to do so. On the first field controller, which is our master, I will choose internal plus FSK master. Now we can go to the second field controller. Here I will do almost all the same steps as on the first field controller. So you have to choose your table and then plug in your network cable. Go to auto fire mode and turn the key to the fire position if it is safe to do so, of course. The only difference now is that you have to choose FSK slave for the second field controller. The two field controllers are already connected, so I can use one pickle for both of them. Hold the enable button and press fire to start. You can see that the timecode is running out of the master and the LED is green. On the second one, you can see that the incoming signal is valid because the LED turns up blue and the display shows that they're in sync.
Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. I appreciate all the great comments and questions that are flowing in. Paul, do we have anything for Marcel or Peter?
Yes, we do. What is the maximum number of new FMs, the FMAs, can you put in a series without causing potential issues?
It depends more on the controller than on the FMs, actually. On the old FC3, you can have up to 40 modules on our small FCE Raptor field controller, on the Raptor. You can also have 40 modules. The big field controller, you can have 128, like the maximum in a line. We also made a lot of experiments with that. Like, I think, Peter, we once hooked up, I think, all of them completely, a light bulb on each single one of them.
Yes,
at the very beginning, right?
Developing the booster technology, we lined up 128 FMs in series with 3 feet of cable in between each and 300 yards of cable in front.
Yeah. So yeah, there's no limitation coming from the FMs how much you can put into series. This is more about how much power the field controller can provide. So the new FCA field controller, there's the limitation comes in when you run out of addresses.
Yeah, very good. The next question I have is, can you explain the difference between FSK, slave, and master?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So with the slave mode, someone can give you a timecode signal, audio timecode signal. In this case, FSK slave, but it would also work with SEMTI slave, SEMTI timecode. You can then plug this in this timecode into the field controller, and the field controller is capable of synchronizing to it. So you have a pre-programmed show, automated show, and the time of the field controller is hooking up to this timecode. And this is what you're doing in slave mode. The old field controller, the FC3, also had the possibility that you could run it without a timecode, just on an internal clock. And example from some shows that I was attending in Spain, we were trying to synchronize 2 field controllers. We actually just wanted to run them in internal run, 2 of them. One is backup and one is master. And in order to get them synchronized, we had to we used a CD player and played to both of them a time code. So both of them were slaves, and they got synced up by that time code together. And then after that, we just left them an internal run, and so we really just used the time code to sync them up. And from this scenario, which is already years ago, but from this scenario, we developed the idea that it would actually be really nice if the new field controller could also generate an FSK timecode. So kind of you are running the first field controller in internal, but you want to synchronize a second one. So the idea was the first one is generating a timecode, and the second one can be then in slave mode, and then you can synchronize the second with the first one. And that's what this master FSK is doing. So if you put it to, the mode is called internal run plus master FSK, or FSK master. So this means this one is running internally, but it also stripes out timecode, and you can then give this timecode to a second field controller. That's the difference between master and slave.
Yeah, it basically gives you the opportunity to run multiple field controllers synchronous to each other without an external timecode source.
Yeah, that's in a nutshell, yes.
Excellent. That brings me right into the next question that's come in is, how many controllers can you sync together?
Peter, what's the maximum that we tested? 12, 15?
The maximum that we tested at the lab was, I think, 12.
Yeah. So, well, I think there's important to understand where limitations can come from. So if you get an audio timecode signal, I mean, someone gives you a plug, right, where you get the signal from. And in the past, using the old field controllers, what you did was like you were passively splitting them, just usually parallel, and then you were using the very same signal and were connecting this into several field controllers. So if you have then, for example, 4 field controllers connected, then each of those only gets a fourth of the audio power. So you start, for each of the single field controllers, you start decreasing the audio power. That's why we decided in the new field controller that we add in an audio output, a timecode output, and that output is an actively amplified output. So you go into the first one with your fresh original timecode signal, and on the output, the amplified output, you get a refreshed, clean, repowered signal, and you can hook up to the next one. And then this one also goes into the input, and then amplified output, refreshed signal, and you can actually, in theory, you can do this as long as you want. You can hook up as many as you like. This is of course very nice because you have always on the output a very clean and very strong timecode signal. The only thing you should be aware of course, is it's an actively amplified output. So if you would switch the first controller off, the output would not be powered, and there can only be an output signal on an actively amplified output if the device is switched on, of course.
Excellent. All right, I think we should keep moving. That was perfect. Thank you, Marcel. Let's move on to our final tutorial section. So we're going to be looking now at hazard lockouts and subscript features. So please keep the questions coming in and enjoy.
Closer look to the hazard lockouts in AutoFire. So I prepared a little script. Let's first have a look to that, what it's doing. So I go to AutoFire, I clear that everything is safe here, and I turn the key over to Fire. I choose internal run, and I start the script and press down the enable button. After 3 seconds, we will see a sequence here on this FM4, and you will see that it's running those two always in parallel, and it just proceeds several times. Okay, that was the whole script. Now we'll have a look in data table edit to check out how is it really programmed. And then we see here this caliber parameter. You can change this caliber parameter by selecting here the corresponding caliber group that you want, or you can also use the hex key. But I think that shortcut here is more comfortable. So we see that the line 0 is scripted to caliber group 1, the next one is to caliber group 2, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. These of course are always the parallel scripts, so these 8 here are scripted to, don't let me mistake there, yeah. These here are scripted to caliber group 1 and these here are scripted to caliber group 2. So if I go to auto fire, in the moment I turn the key, it is calculating my firing table, and if I now select the corresponding mode I want to run in this case internal run, we will see that the caliber group buttons turn over from yellow to red. That means they are now active, like dangerous. They could happen something, yeah? That's why red. So they all are activated at the moment, but I can also block them out if I want. So if I press the number 1, now all cues that are corresponding to caliber group 1 would not be fired. They're taken out. That's what the hazard lockout is doing. So let's start this. I enable and I fire, and we now will see after 3 seconds it starts, and we'll now see only the left hand side firing, or your right hand side firing, pardon. If I press caliber group number 1 again, so take it in again, you now see both firing again. Let's go into the mode again once more, and this time we start with both on. So 3, 2, 1, and now you see both firing. Now I take out caliber group 2, now I also take out caliber group 1, and now I put in back both of them. So that's actually what you can do with the caliber groups. You can script, you can assign a caliber group number to each of the lines, and you can take them out of your script during the running show by the caliber group buttons, the so-called hazard lockouts in that mode. A new feature of the FCA field controller is that you can now also set up so-called hazard lockout presets. I will show this to you here. We are in data table, and we now select the device setup. We go to the safety settings and then select the hazard lockout presets. So we can decide here which of the caliber groups are initially activated by default when we go over to auto fire. So say we want to have all of them deactivated besides say number 2. So only hazard lockout group number 2 will be active. So I go to auto fire now, make sure everything is clear, the side is clear, turn the key over to fire, and now I enter the internal, and we see now here that only the second one is active and will shoot. Of course we can still activate them however we like, but this is a preset that we can select how we will start up. And of course these presets are individual for each of the script tables. With the subscript mode, you are able to now subdivide your script tables into up to 16 smaller script tables called the subscripts. So in total you can have now 4 times 16, so 64 subscripts on each of the on each field controller. So I turned the key after I made sure everything is cleared here, and I select internal fire and start the script by enabling and pressing fire. We see over here the script running. So this half of the FM is programmed to hazard lockout group number 1, and this here is programmed to hazard lockout group number 2. So of course I can now activate and deactivate those parts of the show with the caliber groups, but I would really like to have them as separated subscripts. So let's say these here would belong to a show number 1 on the day, let's say in the morning, and those one would belong to a second show in the afternoon or at noon. So I go to data table and enable the subscript mode in the device options and advanced settings, subscript mode, and I of course say I enable that. If I now go back to auto fire, you will directly recognize a difference. So I turn the key and make sure everything's safe before, that all these caliber groups here, they got green to directly show you this is another mode you're in, the subscript mode. Now it asks you to select one of these group buttons, and by selecting it, you decide which of the subscripts you want to use. So if I press the number 1, all the script lines that are associated to the caliber group parameter with the number 1 will be read as a part of the subscript number 1. So if I press this one, number 1, it will now load all the queues that belong to the right hand side, our morning show, because those here are related to the subscript number 1 by the caliber group parameter. If I go now to internal and fire that, you will see that in 1 second, only this side here fires. So all these queues are not part of the actual script at the moment that is running. So they will also not delay any queues here, because they're not part of the show at the moment. So let's say this was our morning firework. We set all of this up before the very first show. We shot now all of those, and we have these eight igniters or products left for our afternoon show, and it's now afternoon. We go to auto fire. Again, enable after we cleared the site, and now we select, of course, the caliber group number 2 to load the corresponding subscript. So now it loads the subscript with these queues in. Again, I go to internal, enable the field controller and fire, and now we see the second script running. To sum this up, you can subdivide a script table into 16 subscripts. So in total you can have 4 times 16, that makes 64 subscripts on only one FCA field controller.
All right, time for the last section of question and answers. Paul, I see more questions have been pouring in. Do you want to take it away?
Yes, I will. One of the questions we have here is, what is the fastest way to go from wait code to the internal clock on a FCA if you have issues with timecode supply?
On the FCA, you really have to re-enter the autofire. So you would press the autofire button again, the script will reload, and then you can select internal. On our latest controller, the Raptor, the FCE Raptor, we implemented also a function that allows you to just jump back to internal run in case you don't get the time code, because we understood that this would be really handy in case you would have problems, and that is particularly something that beginners are a little bit afraid of, that they first few shows where they handle time code. I think as soon as you did it, sometimes it becomes really normal. But the very first times, it seems to be very complicated, and they're very happy if they have a backup option. That's why we put it into the new field controller, the small one.
Gotcha. Thank you. Next question we have here is, how many queue lines can you shoot in one script table?
Queue lines? You mean like how many times you can fire, or
how many queues can you actually per table?
Okay. 2048 would be the total, because that's the amount of addresses that you would have. But it's would also be possible that you on a new FCA, and that you use an address on several of the outputs. You could have, for example, an FM with the address number 02 on each of the 5 outputs. Of course, they will always shoot at the very same time, the very same clamp, but technically that's possible. So if you add those in, there could be, you can of course have more firings, but the queues, the timings that you can select will stay with 48.
Gotcha. Very good. Okay, this one's talking about your subscript portion. Can you jump between subscripts quickly without the system having to reboot in between?
Uh-huh. Let me just maybe add something to the part before. If you have a bigger show, you can, for example, use the scripting softwares also to split up a fireworks show to be downloaded to several controllers. So you're not limited in your fireworks show to 2,000 cues. You can split this up to several controllers. Regarding the subscripts, what this device is doing, you're entering the autofire, and then the device asks you which subscript you want to select. And after you made your selection, the controller is really running through all lines of your data table and is just picking out those who have a matching number, and anything else are kicked out. And then he's taken away from there this subscript. So if you want to select another subscript, you have to re-enter. You have to press autofire again, and then have to tell them the new number, and then it will sort out the new numbers. So this is the fastest way still.
Very good. The next question we have is what software programs do you need to build a script and to load it into the controllers?
Yeah. Obviously, you can, of course, program on the field controller for small things. This is, of course, fine. If you want to do something more complex, there are at the moment two leading softwares out there for choreographing fireworks, which is Show Director and Finale 3D. Show Director, I think you will have Alberto from Infinity Vision, the company who makes Show Director. I think you will have him in the series here. I think in one of the next episodes. Is it right?
That is correct. That leads right into, we will be having them join, and we'll have a separate episode just for scripting. While we're talking about separate episodes, it was mentioned that you've talked about your other controller, the Raptor. Oh, yeah. We will also be doing another PD version with more of your gear down the road, highlighting the Raptor and what have you. A couple questions were coming in on it, but instead of blogging up this particular webinar, we'll make sure people are looking out for that upcoming webinar, and we'll be advertising it, and we'll go over the Raptor in depth.
Yeah, I always have fun with you guys. I'm happy to be back soon. Yeah. I think last time I was told that there were also some questions relating to Show Director, which were in the chat, but we could not answer. So I think if we have if you have Infinity Vision in your series, I think then I'm pretty sure he's capable of answering all questions.
Yeah, we are in midst of producing that episode as we speak, so that will be coming to viewers shortly. One or two more questions. The next question I see up here is talking about Timecode, and it says the best way to share Timecode with other departments. I'm sure they're talking about other departments on say a festival or a concert where your lighting and such would be tied in.
Yeah. Lighting is usually lighting, TV, and all this stuff. They usually use so-called SMPTE timecode. SMPTE timecode has some advantages, some disadvantages in correspondence to the FSK timecode. For instance, SMPTE timecode is very widespread, so like everyone in lighting and also in TV production can use it, and that's why they usually also want to use it. But the FSK timecode has a big advantage when it comes to transmitting it. This is a timecode that it's that narrow banded that you can even send it over walkie-talkie, and you cannot do that with a SMPTE timecode. So if you have a location far off and you can just send a timecode through the walkie-talkie, that's really gives you great opportunities. That's a strong thing about FSK. Also, the FSK has got some checksum checking, which means it is double checking that there's no corrupted data. SMPTE timecode is missing that. It's still a really stable one, but it does not have a parity checking or something like that. So I think that's a disadvantage for the SMPTE. If you now have to work with different departments, it depends a little bit. if you are in control of the time code, or if the other departments are in control of the time code. If you are, for example, if we do big shows where we have lighting and lasers and stuff like integrated, then we usually just record to our music several timecode tracks, one with FSK and one with SMPTE. Then we take for us the FSK and give the other one the SMPTE timecode. But it could also be that the timecode is coming from, for example, lighting or from TV production, and then you don't really have a choice. They give you the timecode. And the old FIG controller sometimes struggled with the different SMPTE formats, because there are really a lot of different SMPTE formats out there, and it can get a little bit complicated. There's a 30 frame one, a 35 frame one, a 34 frame one, and there's a 31 that drops some frames called drop frame. And this can get a little bit confusing. And this also leads to some delays in the old FC3 when you give it the wrong one and you didn't prepare it correctly. So that's why we decided in the new field controller that this field controller is always thinking in the 30 frames of the Pyrodigital world, and whichever timecode you give it, if it's the SMPTE 24 frame, 25 frame, 30 frame, or the drop frame, or the FSK timecode, it takes in the timecode it gets and it recalculates into the internal clock. And as long as it's scripted correctly, it will execute correctly, even though you think you will get an SMPTE timecode with 30 frames, and at the end they give you one with 25. It would not screw you up with the new field controller. And sounds funny, but believe me, it happened several times in this world that people got the wrong timecode that they thought they should get.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think we're going to wrap it up there. So thank you, Peter and Marcel, both. We've learned so much speaking to you, and can't thank you enough. We're looking forward now to doing another one where we'll get to focus more on the Raptor and some of the questions that we haven't got to answer today. And hopefully sooner rather than later, you're going to come and actually get to visit us from Germany. So we're all looking forward to that as well.
Oh, we'll always be happy to come back.
Good. We can't wait to see you in person. So finally, we'll conclude with a short clip of a show fired on the FCA system. This is a clip from Rock and Blast in Cleveland from 2019. Also, like Paul mentioned, please keep an eye out for announcements about upcoming webinars on our social media. We have some really fun and exciting ideas coming down the pipeline that we will be announcing here shortly. Also, if you could, please take a minute to fill out that survey, and this will just help us to, again, improve our webinars as we move forward and also talk about the topics that you care about most. So until next time, thank you for joining us today. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.